Greetings, everybody, and welcome here to a little bit of this thing we like to call Project Cronus. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Grimjack, Grant Ellis is awesome, and you're right. But you're also thinking, Grimjack, where's everybody? I mean, Don's great, but Summer, Vinny, Kiana, where? No, just where are they? Well, this is a special episode of Project Cronus. This is an episode entitled Beyond the Sea, and this one deals only with the Olympian Poseidon. So, as it is time to deal with this Olympian, let's talk to him before we dive in. Don, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm fine. I'm good. It, yeah, I'm excited about this. I remember you asking me just a short few hours ago if we wanted to do this thing, and I immediately said yeah. And then like slowly the dread has been building since then as I realized that I've made choices and how those choices will bring some kind of consequence. I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome, brother. Awesome. And I appreciate you doing this because it's tough to do a one-on-one. So a couple things out there for the viewers that are watching this. This is obviously a one-on-one for Cthulhu, which means it could last 5 minutes, depending upon how the dice tell this story. We are going to allow this story to run as long as it should. Now, Grimjack, what is that? That is very nebulous. Sure it is. It could be 20 minutes. It could be an hour. We're not going to go longer than our allotted time of 2 hours. I doubt it'll go that far, but this is Don. He is very good with Barney, so he could last a little bit longer than maybe the story could dictate that it goes a little bit longer. We'll see. But as we are sitting back and ready to dive into a tale of Poseidon, we need to figure out exactly how this Olympian got in this predicament in the first place. And so we turn our attention to last week. And at the last episode that we saw, Barney, he was inside the asylum that helped to stitch together his mind. But it couldn't be the real asylum. They're somewhere else, some world at the bottom of the sea. But it looked like it. It smelled like the asylum. It felt like the asylum to the core. And as Barney looked around in the hallway that was outside of the room that he spent gathering his thoughts into his fist and forcing them back into his mind, he realized that there was things that he had forgotten, things that he now needed to know. And so he opened the door. And that, my friends, is where we start this episode of Project Cronus, entitled Beyond the Sea. Barney, you wake up with a start. There's a ringing in your ears, but you do not know from whence it came or where it came. And for a moment, you're disoriented as you remember firmly opening the door in the asylum hallway, Pete screaming to your left, May and a shattered, weeping Aphrodite to your right. And you open the door, a whisper in your mind of a name long forgotten, Cthulhu. But now you're somewhere else. But like the asylum, it smells right, it feels right. As you look around and realize that you are in your sleeping quarters aboard the USS Maine. Underneath, the ship rocks, and you realize, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that it is February 15th, 1898, and the Maine is doomed again. And let's start this, as we start all good Cthulhu things, with a sanity roll.
Barney fails.
Barney fails. That's an excellent way to start. Only one sanity point lost. So, with a loss of one sanity point, you come to the realization that you are in the main. What is going through Barney's head as he looks down and realizes he might be back in the main, but he is still the old man from 1933.
He looks down to his wrinkled, hairier than they were in his youth hands, and looks up for anybody who might be in the same room as him, and he says, May. For a minute, he has just absolute panic in his eyes. Is there anybody with him?
As the memories begin to creep back into Barney's mind, he remembers waking in a similar fashion on February 15th, 1898. And yes, there is something in here with him. And as he turns and looks, calling out for his wife, he sees instead a dark-skinned child, but not dark by race or dark by the tanning of the sun. It is shadow. It is inky in this dark light. And as this child turns from the doorway, it smiles, its teeth stained. Inside its mouth, twin tongues lap out, seemingly scaled. This does not hurt Barney's mind, as he has seen this image before. But what does hurt Barney's mind is that he too remembers how difficult this creature was. And so I would like you to make another sanity roll for me, please.
Success.
And with a success, you only lose one sanity point as this creature in front of you, its very presence in your proximity of age, causing your mind to quake. And as it turns and looks at you, it launches itself. I'd like you to make a dex check for me as this creature seems bent on violence.
Barney reaches for his shotgun and tries to use the butt of the shotgun to knock the creature away. A success.
You reach for it, but it is not there. And as you swing your arms, you are able to knock the creature away as it's coming in, enabling you both to kind of stand up. You are unarmed. You have no firearms about your person.
He grabs the pillow on his bed, jumps down to his feet, and lands with a thunk. He kind of holds the pillow in front of him and starts to edge away from the creature, saying, "You're not real. None of this is real. Just some sort of dream. You can't hurt me."
The creature just bends its back, its feet touching the floor as its back is bent in an impossible angle, and it slowly pulls itself back upright. It again smiles its stained smile, licks with its twin-scaled tongue, and advances. You do have your pillow between it, but is there anything else you want to do before it gets to your pillow?
Is it between me and the door?
You've angled yourself around where it is now. It's kind of switched positions with you. It's over against the wall where you kind of knocked it aside. It is now it, you, and the door.
Barney is going to, unlike the first time he experienced this, instead continue backing towards the door as quickly as he can without turning his back. He might say that this isn't real, but part of him still feels like it is, and he's still taking precaution with the pillow ready to try to dodge, deflect if the creature lunges at him again.
The creature does indeed lunge at him again, and it swipes with two long, you're not sure what is claw and what is finger as it swipes at you. Again, that wicked twin-tongued smile, either showing pleasure or desire. You are unsure. What would you like to do as these attacks begin to descend on Barney? I will allow you a dodge if you would like, but you forfeit an action when it comes back to your turn, or you may fight back against this thing as it rails against you.
He'll fight back when pressured, and he'll try to catch as much as he can with the pillow, and then if he can, use his larger size to try to pin down the creature and get one hand around its neck.
Okay, so with this, roll me a fighting brawl, and we'll see.
Let's crit that.
Okay, so with the crit, as it comes in, you're able to fight back, and as one of the claws seems like it is just a mere inch away from striking the place where your neck meets your shoulder, you're able to use the thing's momentum, and perhaps in a move that Barney hasn't felt in years, you're able to twist yourself and reach up, and you're able to secure your left hand around this thing's throat. And when you touch it, it feels vaguely slick, as if it's holding a moisture to it, or it's excreting something from its glands. But as you grab hold, you're able to get purchased beneath the jaw. Otherwise, you feel almost like the skin of a porpoise or some type of aquatic life. It would slip off, but you're able to grab and drive it down to the ground. You have it held. If you wish to attack at this point, you can, as it seems to be angling one of its free hands to attack your chest, your torso.
He whispers to the not boy, but boyish looking thing, says, I'm sorry. And he's going to take his hand that's around his neck and bring the head up and just try to, again and again, a couple of times, just smash the back of its skull into the ground, into the metal.
Okay. So with this one, since you already have a handle on it, I'd like you to roll a strength roll to see how badly you pile drive this thing.
Okay. And I'm going to push this roll.
Ooh, I love it.
Oh, no.
Okay, so we don't have many of these in Pulp Cthulhu, but the pushing mechanic is you fail something and you're willing to risk something to try again, to kind of redouble your efforts. This is a perfect time to show what happens when even a push fails. So as you bring the creature down, you lose your grip. It's the angle and the torque and the geometry of trying to use this thing to smash its head into the metal flooring of the ship. And as you bring it down, just at that time, another rock sounds through the USS Maine as you kind of lose your footing and your grip. But as it's falling, it reaches out and slashes with two of its claws against your exposed torso. Those are good numbers. As it barely cuts into you, but it's able to slice in for 3 damage as it draws these lines, just barely bleeding through the shirt as they start to drip through the shirt and stain it, tacking the shirt to your chest. But it's there before you. It is down. You have pushed, so it jumps back up and attacks again. With the push, you aren't able to dodge or fight back as it hits you for another 5, slashing into the belly, retracing its steps almost as it likes where it put its fingers before. It intends to do so again. And as it crunches in again, you take 5 more damage as Barney is slashed open. What would you like to do, Barney?
So his left hand comes up protectively, instinctively to his stomach, and he can see the blood, his own blood on his hands. And something sparks in him that he hasn't felt in a long time, but he remembers feeling it that day. And his eyes go wide, and he lets out this bellow. It doesn't sound any more human than the noises this creature makes. And he charges the boy, right arm out, and he's going to try to drive it back into a wall again, just trying to smash its skull into the metal of the hall.
Okay. Again, what we'll do is I will take this. You'll have to roll a fighting brawl to, again, kind of get your grip on this thing, coupled by a strength roll to continue the action, the maneuver, or you can give me a crit, and I will allow all this to happen.
Yeah, Barney's feeling a crit. He's feeling it.
Now, normally, I see Kiana telling me to give my husband a crit, goddammit. And normally, Kiana, we know that we can't crit people in our own games, but since you're technically not in this one, I will allow it. And so, as a benevolent keeper, I will give the crit that you just goddamned me with to your husband, which he will then use on this shadow creature. So as you are able to do it, and as you kind of drive the creature in using all of your weight, I'd like you to roll a fighting brawl, and I'd like you to roll a d10. We're just using the damage for the fighting brawl and a d10. I think, what's your size bonus there? Is it 1d4 plus 1d3, something like that for you? Let me see. Make sure we got Barney doing the right stuff. Yeah,
he gets 1d4.
Yeah, okay, so I tell you what, give me a 1d7 and then a 1d10, and that'll, because you don't have to roll the fighting brawl, you critted it to hit.
All right.
There you go.
So 14.
And so as Barney snaps into a savagery he hasn't experienced in well nigh these 35 years, he drives the creature using his own weight, his own size and superiority and strength into one of the bulkheads of the ship, and there is a crunch as its head breaks, splitting. You remember a similar circumstance when you killed one of these creatures with a poker, its head caving in like a melon. This is not dissimilar from that, but it is more violent. It is more up close. You feel your fingers slip into the fractures as you drive this thing's skull into the wall. It still holds its smile. Its tongues still hold their whip and their lull as it drops to the ground, the blood creeping from the wounds on your belly. But the shadow creature is still.
His chest heaving, he grabs like a small locker that would be by one of the beds in the room and picks it up and brings it down over top of the creature's head just to make sure, trying to crush it underneath.
There is a sound akin to a large ant being stepped on, as there is a bit of resistance, and then finally that last flattening of the curvature of the skull as it just drops, and whatever is held within that formerly sound skull is now oozing along the decking. It is not moving.
Fear creeping back into his eyes, he turns around, spins around. May, are you here? Looking around for both any signs of his companions in the room, anything that doesn't fit into his memory of what the main looked like, anything that looks more modern. But I guess also I'd be looking for any kind of weapon that's better than his fists, a gun, any kind of gun.
Roll spot hidden for me.
All right. Success.
You look around and everything is as it should be. However, as you look around, you note the absence of. You remember defending yourself with a poker at one point. It is not there. You are able to find loosely rolled up, would have been almost a bat-shaped object that used to be a spool for large nautical maps. When they were wound up along one of these spools, they were used to make sure that they wouldn't tear along the edges, and they can be kind of quickly rolled and unrolled. It is empty. There isn't a nautical map on it, but it does carry a heft to it, and it would be the equivalent of having a baseball bat.
Okay. Yeah, he'll grab that and still kind of clutching his stomach, bleeding. Look for any kind of first aid. If there's a first aid kit or something he could at least wrap his wound with a little bit before he heads on out into the hall.
Right. You do remember that because this is like the residential common quarter muster area of the majority of the ship, you were the chief gunner on the USS Maine. You were close to their the commissary was close to this area, as would be the first aid kind of triage station. You know that there would be medical supplies there. But again, beneath you, the Maine is listing. It is not holding itself steady. It's not under motion either. It's not underway. So these rocks and rolls are not ocean related. They are the fits and spells of a dying ship.
God damn it. It all feels real. He considers going and looking for first aid, but knowing that whatever's happening has an end point, that he has somewhere he needs to get to. He feels that, at least. He'll take the roll in his right hand and kick open the door and head on out into the hall. And he's wary, though. He remembers last time that there were more of those things.
Right. And so as he kind of kicks open the door and swings out into the smaller corridor hallway of the USS Maine, it too, because of its length, you're able to see the list of the ship now. You're able to see how the floor is tilted to port, and you realize that the sound that woke you is followed by these larger booms that seem to be echoing from various points of the ship. Nothing seems to be too close to you, however, but the effects of these explosions are rocking and affecting the metal beneath your feet. As you're looking around, you see down the hallway in the distance that can be traveled, there's smoke billowing everywhere, clogging different areas. You don't see any more of these shadow children per se. You do, however, notice something, as your observation roll before would dictate, as you're still continuing to look for anomalies from your first experience here to the next. You realize that in retrospect, these things were there before when you first experienced these events of 1898. But now, as a man from 1933, a man that is 35 years older, a man that has seen things that his younger self had not, you realize that subtly drawn on the walls of this hallway, there are runes and occult symbolage and iconography that speaks as English would to a man that you were in 1898. And you're able to read what's there, at least partially. If you want to stop and make an occult roll, I can give you a little bit more information.
Yeah, he'll stop. He'll put his hand up against the wall where the runes are and kind of feel them to see if they're dry or how they're painted on there. I got a hard success.
Okay, with that hard success, you are able to realize that these are freshly painted, and as your fingers come away, they are tacky, they are wet with what looks like blood. As it's darkening, it's not a bright blood, it has been exposed for a while, and you can smell it, and it smells, has that coppery tinge to it. And as you look around with that hard success, you realize that it's not a spell or any type of ritual per se, not in entirety anyway, but you're able to draw from the power runes and mere like connectivity and activation iconography bits of phrases. Sunder the seal, begin the arrival, offer glory to the sent. And it seems to repeat itself. Sunder the seal, begin the arrival, offer glory to the sent. And you see it over and over again, written in different hands, different handwriting, if it can be said, for something that's mere graffiti or painted blood. And it's everywhere now that you've noticed it. And in your mind's eye of remembrance, you remember seeing something that was off kilter, but dismissing it for fear of your life.
He'll pull back his hand after letting everything kind of settle in and start down the hall towards the stairs that would lead up to the deck of the ship. And he's kind of calling out to the darkness as he goes, the darkness ahead. He'll say, ever since what happened in 18, I've been trying to live my life quiet from my family. I've been hiding. But I ain't hiding now. I got a responsibility. People I care about, to the world that I'm a part of. Cthulhu. Now that I know your name, I want you to know. Whatever's going on, whatever you want, ain't gonna happen. I ain't hiding anymore. So why don't you just cut this game and face me? He just continues down the hall.
A figure steps out of the darkness. Not one of the shadow children, but it appears to be a sailor wearing the same colors, low rank as an ensign. He comes out, and you can't make out his features because his eyes are black with stark points inside them as he blinks, his lids dropping over the space, and they settle on you. Chief? And this is, of course, what they called you in 1898. Chief, what's going on?
Stay back.
Are we under attack? I'm having problems seeing.
Yeah, no kidding. He's edging forward, bat in hand. Does he get the sense that this is one of his men? Or does that's just been somehow...
You see that he is... Your mind recognizes him as having served on the main, but you can't put name to face, especially when it's kind of distorted as it is. You do notice that he has a rifle over his shoulder. It's slung, it's not out or, resting against it. It's not being wielded. It's strapped over his shoulder, and he looks as if he is part of some type of fire brigade or pre-marine type of detachment that would have been aboard as security. But the black starlight in his eyes. Chief, what do we do?
What's your name, son?
Brad Martin. Helped you 2 weeks ago with the top deck gun when it got jammed because of that damn gall. I can't see real well, Chief.
It's okay, Brad. All this is just a nightmare. Ain't real. He's getting closer. He's starting to hold out his hand. I'm gonna need that rifle now.
Okay. All I can see is you, Chief. I can't see nothing else. Except them windows. I didn't think we had windows here. It's a boat.
You see windows. Oh, where? Behind me, all around me.
Yeah, right and to the left. There's windows. They're telling me they all say the same thing. All the windows say the same thing. They just look different.
What do they say, Brad?
They say you gotta do something to change. You gotta. They're saying that maybe you can see different in the windows. Can you see the windows, Chief?
Yeah, I can see him. He's now almost reaching for the rifle at his shoulder to start to pull it off of him.
Good, because they're getting mad and yelling at me. They say that I can't see. Maybe you can see it, Chief. Look in the windows. Roll a power check for me, Barney.
And this is 1933 Barney, so he has a advantage on his power checks. So a hard success. Ooh.
And as the man turns his attention and his command to you, he says, "Look in the windows, Chief. Look in the windows." And Barney, you start to feel your vision fade as it's almost like it's focusing, as you're getting like a haze or a halo of darkness around your eyes as it's beginning to bore into like a telescope, a distance. You've shot things through scopes before. It is not unlike that effect, as it seems that your eyesight is dimming or you're falling farther away from the field at hand. The man in front of you, as you can see your own hand kind of blur and warp with the concave nature of this gaze, you see the man reaching for the gun over his shoulder as he begins to shrug the rifle off.
Still feeling a little bit of his blood boiling from what happened in the bunk room, even as the darkness kind of is eating away at the periphery of his vision. Barney will lunge forward and try to pull the gun away from Brad, not Brad, whatever he is, and say, "This is just a nightmare. It'll pass."
Okay, we're going to make this interesting and roll another power check, as this struggle is going on more somewhere else than between two fists.
A hard
Okay.
success.
With this time, as you're able to do this, your vision kind of pulls back rapidly as if you are rising to the surface of water. And as you return to your field of vision, you feel a sensation on your cheeks, but you also have ripped the rifle away from Brad, not Brad. And as he's standing there, you see him look through the window. Look through the window, Chief. Did you see anything, Chief? Chief, did you see anything? They're telling me that you need to see something. They're mad, Chief. They're so mad. Oh.
He raises the rifle up and takes a shot at Brad right in the forehead.
His head cracks with more force, more will to live than perhaps that creature that you just ended back in your bunk. And as Brad falls, the darkness and the pinpoints of light bleed down his cheeks, over his teeth, and he drops to the ground.
I'm sorry, boy, but you're not here. He doesn't look to the left. He doesn't look to the right. He pushes on towards where he remembers the stairs being that lead up to the deck.
Okay. I will ask you to roll a sanity check with advantage because Barney now believes that he is in some type of dream, so I'll give you advantage on it. This one. Okay, well, those are two fantastic rolls. You take one sanity loss, as this is the equivalent of, for those of you mechanically who are following Pulp Cthulhu or Cthulhu, sanity rolls in anything that would be considered the dream world or what the person believes to be the dream world result in sanity loss no matter success or failure. So as you are able to find the decking, you climb up onto the main deck of the main, and here is where you see a similar scene to your first instance. You see sailors as they are running and screaming, being chased down by these kind of loping shadow children, and they are grabbing and renting with their stained smiles and their scaled tongues as they lap at the blood that is misting in the air along with the salt water. There is a gurgle and a bubble that is coming from beneath the main as air and pressure changes rush through the holes that have been rent into its skin. And with each of those rumbles, as the ocean roils around and begins to foam and froth, the cold waters begin to creep and lap over the main deck as several of these shadow children seem to be without a meal. And upon seeing Barney climb onto the deck and realizing that no one has claimed him as their prize, three of them begin to slowly walk at ease with the balance beneath their feet. With every jolt, their knees act as shock absorbers, bending the wrong way as they kind of fluidly move toward you. What would you like to do?
He pulls back the lever on the rifle and steps towards them, about at the same pace that they're approaching him. Just levels the gun. You're gonna have to do better than this. I already beat this. He takes a shot at the first one, the closest one.
Okay. Go ahead, and you can use your elephant gun for this because I know that you have that already queued up in Roll20, so go right ahead and rock away with that.
Ooh, I'll use 5 luck.
Okay. With the use of 5 luck, let's see that damage, and we will...
All right. 15.
The first one, not unlike Brad, not Brad, loses its head above the neck as Barney is able to expertly put this one down. You do have another shot as the two seemingly could care less about the loss of one of their own, and they are continuing to advance with their sickly smiles.
Another 15.
Number 2 falls, and at this point, I believe you have to reload the gun. What we're going to say, since we're using the damage from the elephant gun, you're just cycling through your shots, and the second one gets to you, and as it leaps through the air, you have a decision to either dodge or fight back. You may do either.
He'll, not having had time to reload yet, choke up on the end of the gun and swing its like a bat almost as he fights back, trying to knock the creature out of the air.
Okay.
And I'll use a crit.
Okay. So as you spend down, the crits that you have are now represented on the screen with the 3 that you have. Reduction will be coming from Barney's picture from now on. As you swing and hit this thing, roll me a D8 as the butt makes contact. Okay, so as you fight back, it hits and it spins to the ground. That being on its turn, you have a chance to either strike again like this or spend your action to reload the rifle. What would you like to do?
Not having time to reload the rifle and shoot before this thing is probably on him again. He steps forward, almost straddling it, and brings up his boot and drives it right down into its mouth, or tries to.
Okay, so with an 1898 version of a curb stomp, I would like Barney to roll me a fighting brawl to see how this goes down.
Oh yeah, I'll crit that.
Okay, so let's make sure everybody can see the crits. Oop, not that one. That's Maze. Oop, that's Maze too. Hold on. There we go. Down to 2 crits. And as you bring this down, that would double the damage as it smashes into its skull. Roll me a 2d6.
Eight damage.
Okay, so as you bring it down, you are able to cave in this skull. Again, it gives as if it's something less solid than bone. Doesn't have nearly the humanity that Brad's skull had when it cracked. But as you look around, just like before, the mane is slipping beneath the waves, as it seems that the Shadow Children, any of your fellow sailors that are alive, are being clawed beneath the vacuum that is the USS Maine. And you are going with it. As you are pulled beneath the surface and the ice water takes you again, there is no sanity roll because this has been experienced before. And as the water inevitably fills the lungs of the man who would be Poseidon, he's dropping, unable to fight the current that rises or would take him by sheer buoyancy back to the surface. The Maine is dragging its children with it. And as it falls, you can see its bulk off to the side. But when its bulk stops, you continue, as if you've slipped between or through some sea rift or fissure. You continue to fall, just like before. Time loses its sense, just like before. Hours, days, months, just like before. And again, when your mind, even with the prior knowledge of survival intact, begins to wonder, where am I? This sensory deprivation, something that's even more akin to the heightened powers of 1933 Barney. Again, one of those deep aquatic bioluminescent creatures will tickle near you, just like before, reminding you that you're not crazy yet, and the drop continues. And as you fall, you finally touch down on this featureless ocean bottom. There's no coral, no rock, no debris or decaying biomatter. It is just silt and fine sand. Off to the right, there is a yellow glow.
Finally, he thinks to himself. For a moment, he looks in the opposite direction of the yellow glow, just to see if there's anything but floating silt and shadow there. See if there's another path.
Roll spot hidden for me.
Extreme success.
You don't see any other path or any other glow or any other potential destination, but the seafloor does go in that direction. It is not bound by any type of natural wall or rock. It is a flat plain here on the bottom of the sea. However, now that you're looking, and with the absence of any discernible current, you can see that there are what look like footprints that lead towards or in the direction of the temple. It is very odd because they seem to lope one and another and another towards the temple you know exists in the yellow glow.
He'll, and I think probably he would have done this at some point as he was floating, reach in and into his pocket and look for his Ronson lighter. Does he have that?
No.
He reaches again at the bottom of the sea, testing it again, realizing it's still not there, that all of his securities and weapons, the things that he's relied on in the past situations, I don't want to say like this, but because this is something else, but his security blankets are gone, but he steeled himself and he starts swimming towards the glow, resolved to confront this entity, even if it's a nightmare, if it's real, knowing that that's the right thing to do in his mind.
So as you swim, again, your mind's eye remembering that this journey before seemed a bit easier, whereas you're not drowning, it still requires effort to swim like this, to be clothed like this, to have a drag it's very difficult. There's a pressure down here that's unlike swimming on the surface where air is buffeting your back or buffeting your stomach as you flip beneath the one world and the other. This is decidedly the world of the ocean. But you get there, and again, this temple beneath the sea appears in its yellow glow. But this time, there's something different. You see the wide open door, and you see a young version of yourself swimming through it.
He opens his mouth, salt water spilling in, and tries to call out. Is he able to vocalize under here?
You can create sound, yes, and it actually seems rather loud because of the absence of sound down at this depth, the absence of any type of movement or any compensation of air that would cause any type of maneuvers or vibrations through the waves. I will allow you here to roll a, let's see, what's the skill for yelling underwater?
I'm surprised there isn't one.
There's enough. I will find something that gets close. We'll probably just make a straight ability check here. I'll tell you what, give me a constitution,
Okay.
because that seems like the ability to fight through an odd sensation to continue.
Regular success.
Okay. You emit what is not unlike a whale song with just a large as you kind of it echoes in this vast plain pocked only by this temple. But as it moves away from you, riding the fluid to all points, it does not reach you before you enter the temple as a younger man.
He swims faster, and if that means pulling off his shirt, shedding clothes to create less resistance, that's what he does to try to get down there as quickly as he can.
Okay, you eventually get through and you enter into this temple, and you realize it is at this moment that you don't remember what happened when you went in before. You certainly don't have any memory of what happens now. You remember simply waking up back on the surface. Yet here, your mind allows you to continue. And as you look around, the temple itself opens into a larger underwater space, as if it's simply a gate. And as you swim through, down below you now, you see a light. The perpetual gloom continues, but you can see a light.
Does he see the younger version of himself?
No. Dwight Burke just gave you 2 crits.
Dwight Burke is the best. He will continue to swim towards the light, trying to keep an eye out for anything moving. It's very still down here, very solitary, but if there is anything moving, he'll keep an eye out for that. And again, he'll try to call out through the water, and it comes out muffled, and bubbles come out of his mouth. But he's calling out for Cthulhu, and
Okay.
he's just swimming onward.
Roll me another Constitution check, then.
Extreme success.
Okay. So again, that sonar, that as you're kind of creating whatever noise you can, echoes through the area, or at least vibrates through the area. And as you get down closer to this light, swimming and shedding clothing, you are down to your undergarments as you see below you what looks like a circle. But as you angle a bit, you realize that it is a kind of a curved sphere, almost like a puckered manhole cover. It appears, though, to be made of glass, and whatever is inside is causing the illumination. It's still about 50 feet below you.
And still no sign of himself, younger himself.
Nope.
His thoughts drift to May and Aphrodite and Pete and Jack as he gets closer to the light. And as much as he wants to tell himself that this is just a bad dream, a meaningful dream, but just a dream, another part of himself says, these might be my last moments. And he thinks about Ruby, and he hopes that she's safe, that their sacrifices have given his daughter a possibility for a normal life. And then he turns and begins to swim deeper and downward towards the light.
As you get closer, you start to see several things as the light that's being emitted from inside this strange glass disc kind of filters through the ruddiness of the liquid around you. And as you get closer and closer, you recognize that this is not some type of opaque light source. It's glass. And you get closer and you see that there are countless wires that seem to be running up and around and covering the perimeter of this glass disc, which now that you get closer looks more and more like a dome, but you're on the wrong side of it, so it looks like it's popped instead of dipped. And when you get closer, you can see further below through the glass. And you see Honest Pete Abraham gripped in the coils of some red wire as it seeks to kill him. You see May. You see yourself. And you see Aphrodite as she turns and dives into the cylinder.
The two words come to his mind: just mirrors. And his gaze lingers on them for a moment. This moment that in his mind wasn't, that long ago. Then he kind of steels himself and continues to swim further towards the source of that light.
As you swim by, you pass, and another of the domes appears. And this time when you look down, you can see light exploding from the area as your wife activates some type of control panel around the cylinder. There's another flash as you see the being known as Aphrodite smashed through the glass, connecting, if ever so briefly, with the man known as Jack Kilgrave before the ocean rushes in. And for the first time, you feel a pool of current as this liquid rushes into the space, but it's minor. You can pass by it. And then you start to see countless bubbles, and as they flip and float through you, you see a hallway. In almost every one, in each of them, there's a different person. One of them seems to be a heavily armed man with a shaved head. The other is a woman near naked with burns that's cradling her body. Another one seems to be dressed like a Nazi officer. Over and over, you see these people as they are too walking down their own hallway of mirrors. But it seems that Poseidon doesn't have a hallway. He has the sea. And as the light splays from the bubble where May is seen inside, activating a device that causes an illumination of light and sparks, your eyes drift to the opposite side as a huge, immense tendril of flesh runs just past the periphery of the darkness. You are out here with it, and I need you to make a sanity check. You lose 5 sanity as you succeed on the sanity roll. And as you watch, you see that this tendril is angled down, and as your gaze travels from bottom to top, the tendril begins to thicken in diameter twice its size, 3 times. It is joined by other similar appendages, tentacles, and as you look up, above this mass of curtain beard of tentacles, there are two immense, black, glistening eyes. And you know you have found the object of your search. Make another sanity check as you gaze upon Cthulhu.
I'll crit this one.
You take 30 sanity loss as you gaze upon the elder god before you. Your permanent insanity is acceptance of fate as one of the tendrils curves around your body and lifts you closer to the eyes. And as your mind shatters and sunders, as it did so many years ago, no longer the benefits of nearly a lifetime spent in an asylum to repair it, it ripped back by the creature known as Cthulhu. It draws you close, and it says one word: peace. You feel the hands of your daughter reach around the outside of your head. You cannot see her, but you know her touch. And as they play with your hair as they did when she was a child, tracing the marks of gray as they overtake the black, these hands move again, and somehow through the water, you hear her say, "I can only stay for a moment. I love you, Daddy. You're right. Fight for Mama. Fight for Mr. Pete. Fight for poor Mimi. Fight for me. But you must fight for the world entire." I'd like you to roll 1d20 and add 20 to it. You regain 31 sanity as Ruby repairs the damage that you just suffered from the hands of Cthulhu. And then her touch is gone. You're sitting on the porch of a cabin in Acadia, Maine. Your old buddy, Charles Cooper, is there, an ensign aboard the USS Maine. He was known for his conquests in ports and the number of women that he claimed to have bedded. But here he stands, seemingly untouched by time, a youth of 1898, and not the man that would go crazy in the years following. He is standing there, and he is turning and he is admiring the world around him in this beautiful spot that you and May had picked with the help of Honest Pete Abraham. You are still old, but you are alive. As Charles turns to you, "You must be ready, my child."
Barney breathes and for a moment forgets what it feels like to have air, fresh air in his lungs, being full of salt water for so long. And the vulnerability in his eyes fades, and that resolve comes back. And he looks at the thing that looks like his old friend. "I'm ready as I'm ever gonna be." What do I need to be ready for?
Well, you don't remember, but we spent a long time together. Long time, my child. But those were dreams. This world and its oceans are ours. Others of my ilk seek this place's destruction, madness, chaos. They know I sleep or they would not dare such things. You must stop their ritual. This gateway they mean to open. You're getting closer.
Who's responsible for this? Is it Dietrich?
No. There is a being by the name of Robert Meadham. He and his brood have spent several millennia planning for this moment. The Main was the beginning, the Yellow Death in Borneo, the first tear to the lower realms in your New York City. They ready for the portal to the higher realms. They mean to bring through others.
Who are you?
You know who I am.
I don't know a lot of things. But I know the people I care about ain't ever gonna be safe. Not in this world that they're making. So whatever I gotta do, I'm in for a penny, in for a pinch.
Very good, my child. And the man that you remember as Charles Cooper gets he moves to get very close to Barney. Does Barney back up or does he allow the proximity?
He stands there.
He gets very close. A foot, 6 inches, draws closer still into a proximity of a lover. The lips touching your own as the breath enters your nose and mouth. And he says, much like a lover, if you fail to stop them, you must promise me something, my child.
He doesn't respond verbally, but there's just a slight dip of his chin, nod of his head.
And his lips brush Barney's as he says, if you fail, you must wake me. Do you understand?
Half telling a lie, he says, Yeah, I get it.
You feel 2 hands press the side of your jaw, where beard meets flesh, they are impossibly strong. If the portal opens and the others come through into our world, you must find the temple beneath and beyond the sea. You must wake me from my dreams. Do you agree?
Yes.
Are you being honest?
I'm not sure that he knows, but in the moment, he feels like this is the only way forward. So I would say so.
The hands move away from the line of your beard, but the lips linger for a second, as if drinking from the man known as Barnabas Norwood. And as it pulls back, nods, a look of regret across its human features. Take some of my power and find me if they come. Barney, you feel yourself collapse into the floor on the old wood of the asylum. Honest Pete Abraham screaming to your left. May and Aphrodite to your right. Increase your power points by 30, and you now possess the spell Summon Cthulhu Spawn. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where we will end Beyond the Sea. That was cool. I talked a whole bunch. I didn't really mean to. I didn't mean to monologue quite so much there at the end, but let's go around to the cat. Oh, hey Don. How's things going, buddy?
Oh, they're great. No, that was extremely intense. That was one of the more intense things that I've ever done, and thank you for putting me through that. It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I'm a little speechless. I had a lot of fun, and I'm excited to have the spell Summon Cthulhu spawn, because that's like Chekhov's gun, you know. You introduced that in episode 5. Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Donathan Fry. I do stuff. You follow me there. You'll see the stuff that I do. I missed having my cast with me today because they're all great and they would have helped me out a lot. But I'm grateful for the opportunity to get to learn some things about Barney that I didn't know. So that's cool. And thank you, Greg. That was a great story. Can't wait for more.
Oh, well, it was. I agree. It was a fantastic story because you wrote it. Everybody, that was the backstory that Don provided me of the USS Maine. I colored it with some elements from the show, but 90% of everything that you just saw was us running through a backstory that was included, which brings me to my tutorial point of the day. It is always a good thing to have players give your backstory, whether you are a player or not, because you get absolute gems from those things. And this was one of those. As soon as I read it, I don't know how long ago you sent it to me, Don, I immediately knew what I wanted to do with this storyline with the blank spots that you left during the USS Maine encounter. It's fantastic. It was a great thing to be able to work through and play out and introduce some new information. But yeah, we will have everybody back next week as we continue the main continuity of Project Cronus. Just so everybody knows, do know that we have a boon that is going to Mimi as soon as we get back, and Three Gun, our own Lord Conti, also has a bit of a surprise for the party proper as they rejoin themselves in the asylum. But if you haven't followed, please hit that follow button. Check us out on YouTube and subscribe if you'd like to catch up on some of the old adventures. This is a fantastic group of role players, and they tell a story just like Don, with their passion and love for the characters that they are portraying. So if you like excellence, ignore me, focus on them, and by God, you shall get it. But until next time, until we come back into 1933, 1915, and the wonderful cast that is assembled here for Project Cronus, I'd like you to know that on the show here, Grimjack 21502, we have the sister show Project Athena tomorrow night from 7 to 9, Conan Age Undreamed Of on Fridays from 12 to 2, and Firefly Tales from the Big Damn Verse from 2 to 4. But until then, everyone, please squeeze whoever you love and make sure that they don't have black eyes with stars in them or are praising Cthulhu. Either of those things, it's bad. But if that happens, come back here and watch and see how these people handle it. They're going to give you the best advice or show you exactly what not to do. But until next time, take it easy, everybody, and have a great one.